Welcome back to another Zowie Customer Success Story podcast. We have an absolute amazing one for you guys here today. I'm joined by Corin from Ice Walks. He is a certified ACMG guide who spends his winters teleskiing and has a business story that's absolutely incredible. So he went from an actual employee to an owner, buying the company in 2020, right before the whole world shut down. So we're definitely going to be digging into that and what that was like. But we're also talking about, navigating that transition. So the reality of climate change on glaciers, and how he pretty much modernized a 40-year-old legacy company. And what are some of the challenges that he was able to deal with there? Corin, absolutely awesome to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. And yeah, thanks for the intro.
Awesome, thank you for joining us here today. So, okay, a lot of different ways I can take this. There's a lot of different things about your story that I want to dig into, but there's actually one specific place that I want to start. So, Corin, we kind of being here with Zowie, there's a lot of different types of businesses that we deal with. There's a lot of different unique environments in tourism, but I really think you have a lot of people beat. A lot of operators worry about things like parking and weather. But I heard a rumor that actually NASA cold called you to use your glaciers as a stand-in for Jupiter's moons. That's just such an interesting thing. So how did that conversation start? And yeah, walk me through that. How did
Yeah.
the conversation with NASA go?
Well, it's just one of my favorite stories. I had just bought the business or agreed to take over. And it was the pandemic. There wasn't much going on. And I was kind of wondering if I made the right move. And I got this, and you get calls as, when you're kind of your owner operator. And so I got this call, and it was from Pasadena, California. I was like, oh, cool. Maybe someone's trying to like book. And as I answered the call, turns out it was the Jet Propulsion Lab for NASA. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. There's like, is this a joke? And he's like, no, I'm serious. This is like, Jeff from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA. And we are interested in seeking out glaciated terrain to test our new uh, Explorer robot that we're going to send to the ice moons of Jupiter. And I said, well, by far, that's the coolest call I've ever had.
That is pretty
And
awesome.
uh, yeah, and how can I help essentially? And
Yeah.
um, they were looking for easy access Glacier, which we have, and they were looking to set up a camp and test this. It's supposed to be an autonomous robot, and if you do get the chance, look up Eels on the NASA website or YouTube, and it's this crazy robot that is like a snake, and it's got a thread on it, and so it screws, and that's how it kind of moves itself around. And then they're trying to program it because the lag time between Earth and these moons and Jupiter is so long that you can't give it instructions, so it has to be somewhat autonomous. And so they're programming this robot to be able to navigate its way down glaciers and look for life in the moon in the frozen moons of Jupiter, which is
Yeah.
totally cool. And so they spent
That's
a couple
yeah,
summers,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah, up on the glacier. And then, yeah, we take our guests around and, hey, what are you guys working on? And they're doing the vision of the robot. And yeah, it was out of this world, literally.
Yeah, I bet. Wow, that is such an incredible story. I mean, that only goes to that initial point about how unique the environment is, right? That even like NASA's like, hey, this is something that kind of resembles Jupiter,
Totally.
which is pretty awesome. um, yeah. So okay, so I also want to dig into just your overall story. I want to dig in a little bit into how this started. What was it before you bought it, and what was happening with the business, and then how you made that decision to actually buy the business.
Well, I guess I'll start from the beginning. Um, Peter Lemieux, who was the founder of the company, he was a parks interpreter back in the 80s. And the company, well, it didn't exist. It was an interpreter program for the national parks. And they would take guests up onto the glacier and just do some interpretation. Um, at some point, the budgets got cut, and the parks approached him and said, "Hey, do you want to take this on as a business venture?" And so this was in '85, and really interesting because it was pre-internet, pre-cell phones. And so, as Peter described, he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And he had a booking center in Jasper, and and there was a time and a meeting place, and he would just be there, and either like nobody would show up or like 20 people would show up. He never really knew. And from those
Yeah.
sort of humble beginnings, um, the company sort of evolved, and the marketing budget of the company is like negligible. It's tiny, and so
Yeah.
it's all kind of word of mouth. People go, they take pictures, they share the stories, and then their friends will come and take
Yeah.
the experience in subsequent years. And that was kind of the company was run like that for about 35 years. And Peter was looking for an exit. I came into the company in 2013. Um, just being a ski guide, you have lots of work in the winter, but you're always kind of trying to piece together something for the summer. And so I just ended up guiding for the company for 7 years, and it was busy all those years. And at some point, I did the math, and I said, you know what? Like, there's a fair amount of money coming in. Like, you do a lot of tours, and it's a small company. It's very bare bones, and so I thought to myself, if there is ever an opportunity to buy it, I would take a shot. Um, and that was ended up being in 2019. It was apparent Peter was looking to for an exit strategy, and so I just said, "Hey,
Yeah.
Peter, if you're don't sell it to your guides. I'll buy 25% at a time." Um, and that's yeah, that was how that all started. Pre-pandemic.
So what was it like? Yeah, I mean, right before the pandemic. I mean, that was a pretty good time for him.
So
But what was it like for you to transition from a guide to an owner?
it was it's interesting because guiding there for 7 years, you understand the operational side of it. So you understand um, the tours, like how to guide, what to look for, the guiding program. But the biggest jump for me was the administration and the business side of it. Being a guide, my computer skills and communication skills and tech skills are lacking, and so thankfully, as I took it over, it was in the pandemic. We had a few lean years, and so it was actually a great time to take it over because we didn't have a ton of guests, and the it wasn't too big of a task to be able to like put together a guide schedule and organize the guests. Um,
Well, that's interesting. So the slowdown that, every single company in the travel industry felt was actually a good thing for you at that time because since you were new to business and then being, an owner of an actual tour company, you had the opportunity to actually slow down a little bit, actually, kind of learn things at a slower pace. So when it did pick up again, you were ready for it. Because actually, we were looking at some of the numbers here, and you guys had like a record breaking year last year, right?
yeah, yeah, no, we the, the parks, and I think it's a little bit deceiving. Like I would love to say I'm this business savant, but I think it's we the parks every year we do well. The parks has record breaking numbers, and so we just skim like a small percentage off the general park visitors. But yeah, in the pandemic years, it was quite lean. We were down like 85-90%. Only the Canadian market, which ends up being quite a small portion of our visitors. We are trying to grow that, and um, but it was good for me in a way that I was able to understand the booking process, the customer journey, and also the Zowie booking system. I was familiar with it, how to run it as a operations manager, but it has so many more features for the business owner, having agent portals and um, online. online travel agent partnerships. And so that side of it just allowed me a little bit more time to integrate with our booking technology.
For sure. So how did Zowie and other technologies that we're using help you during these, harder periods in the very, very beginning? Was there any specific tools that enabled you to essentially prepare a little bit better?
Um, yeah, I think where Zowie really came in, and and it wasn't me that brought Zowie in. It was Peter, the previous owner, who who started up with the booking engine. But it really allowed the company to keep our overhead quite manageable and small. The volumes of bookings that we would do pre-pandemic, we would do like 8, 9,000 people, and if you have to field all those calls, you'd need a team of reservationists that would increase your overhead quite a bit. And so Zowie was able to keep the operation quite slim. And so when the downturn came due to the pandemic, we could scale down the number of guides for the number of visitors that we had. And we did have some help from the government with wage subsidies. So we were able to stay alive, break even, and um, and Zowie was a big part of that
Exactly.
actually, because it only takes one person to be able to run the booking system. You're not answering a ton of phone calls. Um, the customers get everything online that they see. If they do have additional questions, they'll send emails or phone. But um, basically, it's a reservationist, and it fields a lot of customers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Happy to hear that. Okay, I also want to dig a little bit more into the actual experiences you guys offer because it's so unique. I think when someone hears Ice Walk, I mean, I don't really know if they can actually picture what an average tour looks like. So, why don't you give us an idea of what an actual average tour would be?
Well, it starts out. Ice Walk is a great name for the company because that's essentially what we do. You don't have to have any mountaineering background. The Athabasca Glacier is quite a gentle glacier. It just comes down from the Columbia ice field into the valley, and to access it, it's about an hour walk from our trailhead. Most glaciers around the world, you would have 2+ hours with many thousands of feet of elevation gain, and this glacier is just a friendly uh, glacier that you can really get to know, show people in a very safe way. But it has all the features. It's got crevasses, it's got mill wells are crevasses with water pouring into them. Um, so you can see the depths of the ice. It's got our long walk. You have where the glacier meets or comes down from the Columbia ice field. You get these big pillars of ice that stand up, and you have lunch and explore in there. So you can really immerse yourself in a world of ice, and you can do that in a half day or a full day tour, 3 to 6 hours.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah. So you get sorry. So you guys operate almost exclusively on glaciers, right?
that's correct. We 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 are most of all of our business, I should say, is on the Athabasca Glacier. We're a small company. We'll have 6 to 8 guides
Yeah.
working at a time, and just meeting demand for the travelers that want to take our tours is the challenge in the summer times. Um,
What do people, based on your experience, actually misunderstand about glaciers until they actually go out there and experience one?
it's a good question. I think our guests, once they take the tours, there's a lot of unknowns when they come. They know it's on a glacier. There's a little bit of nerves because they know and hear the glaciers are dangerous. And I think when they come back, they see this the glacier as a world of ice. Because even if you stand at the highway and you look at it, it you can see it's a glacier, but until you walk on it, until you feel the wind in your face, until you hear all the water running below your feet. You don't really appreciate of like how much terrain and how much textures are on the ice, and it is a world of ice. Even though it's melting, it's still ginormous. It's about 6 square kilometers, and it's the yeah, to try to like wrap your brain around it, when you're standing on the surface peering into a hole that's like 30 meters deep, you don't appreciate how much of that glacier is kind of a world on its own. And it's a totally different environment than most of our visitors get to see. And so I think that's, allowing them to kind of immerse themselves in that experience is the
Yeah.
what we offer essentially.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds incredible. Um, so okay, you also mentioned something there that I do want to dig in a little bit. In terms of the glaciers melting and whatnot, is how since you've been there for as long as you have you seen any changes to the glaciers due to things like global warming or climate change, stuff like that? Is that something that you sense is affecting what's happening out there?
Oh yeah, 100%. So I started in 2013, and the year I started, the glacier had already receded from its maximum about a kilometer. So, or maybe even a kilometer and a half. And so I was already, when I came in, I already started on a glacier that looked way different than it had in the 80s or even in the turn of the century, the 1900s. Like the glacier used to fill the whole valley. And so when I started, it was a shadow of its former self. And each year I worked there between 2013 and 2020, I knew the glacier was changing, but it didn't really look different year to year. I couldn't really see the incremental change. And then in 2021, we had our first heat dome, which is essentially a high pressure hot system that just sits over the province, and temperatures, which are normally in the 10 to 15 degrees with wind, they got up to 30 degrees up to 2,000 meters where we operate. Um, and we saw a huge amount of change in that year. We lost about 3 seasons worth of ice. And from the start of the season in 2021 to the end of the season, the glacier looked different. It was hard for me as an
Yeah.
owner because I was like, how much time do we have left on this glacier? Like you could really see the
Yeah.
change. And since then, the major challenges that we've had is access, because although there's still lots of glacier, as the glacier recedes, there's a new lake forming right at the toe, and that's really creating a lot of access challenges. So we had to re establish trail systems to get to the toe of the glacier, and that's taking more and more of our guide hours.
Yeah.
And we have to reestablish the trail 2 or 3 times a year. And so that's the major change I've seen in that area. It's
Wow.
the glacier's receded about 400 meters um, since I started
Yeah. Wow.
meters, and the access has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I guess another thing that makes your business so unique is, you guys actually have the ability to tell the story of climate change without it feeling abstract, right? You have actual, you know, here's proof. Yeah, I have actual proof because I can tell you how it's changed year over year. Whereas a lot of other businesses and people, living in the city, they don't really actually get to experience it. They're like, okay, yeah, it's a little bit warmer or a little bit, but you have actual ways of showing it without it being abstract. Do you feel any sense of urgency to get people on the glacier now in any way?
I feel like everybody's so we tell the story. We're not trying to push climate change. We tell the story of the glacier and how it's reacting to the warmer temperatures, and you can see it. Like there's signs there that say the glacier was here in 1985. The glacier was here in 1990. Some people are return
Yeah,
customers. You know, we have a return customer period. It's about 20 years, but they're shocked, right? The last time that they were there, there was a glacier like
right.
and it was massive, and it was like,
Yeah,
who is this?
they remember something and they're like, "That's not according to my memory. That
Yeah.
piece wasn't there."
And so
Yeah,
each
yeah.
person, they relate to climate change a little differently depending on where they live, what their work is. And I think the glacier kind of puts that all into focus for them. And then they'll also mention, note like changes that they see at home, right? So it's not just the glacier is this like placeholder for climate change. It becomes a bit of an anchor point for them, but then they also notice like, hey, there's not as much water in the rivers that there used to be, or there's a whole species of plant in our home country that is disappearing, or we're losing, our indigenous species uh, due to the shifting patterns of climate. So they all kind of relate, and it becomes this bit of a like a node for their own experience, and that's just another piece that they put into their own kind of climate change experience. And so it's really interesting seeing everybody's reaction. And a lot of people, they kind of look at it and they say like, well, what can we do? What is it that we can do about this, right? And so those are questions that are natural when you're kind of faced with that kind of a changing landscape.
So how does it affect your long-term planning, when there's so much that's outside your control?
Well, I told you I'm not a good business person. I don't think anybody would willfully bet the house to buy a business on a dying glacier. But uh, I'm actually quite optimistic. Maybe I'm um, toxically positive or something like that. I think that's what the saying is. But I do have an optimism about the future, and I think that's why you get into business and you do glacier dining business. So I do realize, eyes wide open, when I took over the company, that these were the challenges that I would have to face. And I think what I have come to is, as the glacier still has that kind of majesty and it's still a really meaningful experience for people, we will still continue to try to offer tours to everyone who wants to come. And
Awesome.
long term planning is, I think, that area is just so beautiful. The Columbia Ice Field,
Yeah.
Jasper National Park. I think there is still a story to be told even after the glacier's gone. And I think just trying to diversify the experiences around glaciers, maybe not a hike on a glacier, it could be a hike to a glacier, or even an interpretive tour of where a glacier was. They have a lot of really cool geological features that you can point out and show people. And there's also some adventure opportunities where you can potentially do some easy Via Ferrata
Yeah.
style mountain climbing, but it's pretty friendly for most travelers. That's where you're kind of climbing a mountain, but you're on essentially a
Yeah.
built-in ladder with safety features.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's an absolute gorgeous place. It's probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. Plus, like you said, there's always a story to be told. Yeah, so happy to hear that. Okay, so my question actually, let's come back to today. In your 40th season, which was a massive, a major year of growth for you, what clicked? Other than, I mean, you said there are more people coming in, but at the end of the day, you still have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for the people, and you have to make specific type of decisions. So you are, was there anything else that clicked that helps you be able to handle the flow?
I think it was an interesting season because in 2024 we had a horrible fire just north of us that impacted the town of Jasper, and it it shut down business for, well, most businesses for a period of time. Unfortunately, Jasper lost about 30% of its buildings. And so that as a community was greatly impacted. And, um, Ice Walks, we don't have any offices in Jasper or anything. So we weren't impacted by the fire, but we were impacted by the closures. And about half of our customers come through Jasper, so they'll either come up from Banff or they'll come down south from Jasper to visit us. And so that was a big piece that we weren't quite sure how that was going to happen because a lot of residences were affected. There were some hotels, and coming into 2025, that was just a bit of an unknown. But I guess what clicked for us was I had worked in the business as the administrator for 4 years, and I hired an administrator to take my place. And so we just had more eyes on the booking and looking for more opportunity um, to add, to meet demand and change our schedules. And that was a real help. I think, like I said earlier, I'm not like a great business savant. I think we just, because the parks had more visitors, then we had more of a draw. And so just the fact that there were more visitors coming to the parks means that more people were looking for things to do. And so I think we were a benefit to that as well. Um, and yeah, basically just staying flexible, trying to, anybody that would call, we would try to make a tour for them and make it work. And
Right, right. Just
yeah, as it was, it just Jasper, I think the numbers for Jasper were a little bit down, but they were still had enough infrastructure to provide a really good experience for park visitors. And there's a bit of a rebound and regeneration from the fires.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, so it's been a pretty challenging half a decade of overall business there. But you stay resilient, you move forwards, and came out of it stronger, which is really nice to see here.
Yeah, a few more
Um,
wrinkles and a few more
yeah.
gray hairs, but I feel like I earned every one of them.
Okay, so kind of shifting gears a little bit more here. Another thing that people really want to have me ask, especially in these type of conversations, is kind of the overall AI story, right? Like how are you using AI in your business, if you are at all? Do you have any plans of it? Just what is your relationship currently with AI?
Well, I just basically ask Siri uh, random questions and get some interesting answers. I don't know enough, and I'm not as techy to be able to incorporate AI into the business as it is. I think from what I know, they do well and being trained on data sets. And, and so I think where I see a benefit to AI and incorporating it into our business would be just to upload all of our customer emails and queries, um, and see if the AI can generate some pattern recognition of what most customers want, what they're looking for, and just to be able to digest the data. Because at this point we have myself and an administrator kind of filtering through, and so I think the AI will probably be able to augment all the work that we do and be able
Yeah,
to see some patterns that we may hone in on to be able to give our customers a better experience
yeah.
or an experience that they're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, your business, you take people on the ice and you do that better than anyone else in the world. And that's, where your focus is. And that's how it actually should be. I think a lot of companies, they, from the sounds of it, from your answer, this is your core competency and this is what you focus on. And then when you do have a partner in technology, such as Zowie, we do see it as our obligation to invest into AI on your behalf. We actually, we want to invest in so many different ways where in some ways you probably wouldn't even see or know or hear about it. It's just kind of there in the background doing it because at the end of the day, our investment in AI has been so you can make better decisions, you can make faster decisions, and you can actually make data driven decision. I mean, just recently the launch of Nera AI, which is our AI that essentially looks at every different places you will put your inventory, and it'll give you ideas of what's the best way to allocate your inventory, what's the best way to share your inventory. But also the next stage on that's going to be pricing. How can you have pricing made based on actual data driven insights? So yeah, so I mean, in terms of us, your partner in technology, we're investing into it very, very heavily, and we're very, very excited to lay out what we have for the rest of 2026, because there's some very, very big plans. But yeah, I like that. At the end of the day, leave it up to us. We got it for you, and then we'll kind of let you know what's happening there.
Yeah, I think then that's why Zowie has been such a good partner because we, I'm a guide. Our company is based on guided real experiences. And I think in this world that is emerging is that I think people are gonna crave that. They're gonna spend like their whole work life on screens. They're gonna spend a lot of their social life on screens. And when they come out into these natural mountain parks, they're gonna see that it's real world. They're gonna see this real landscape. They're gonna be able to walk into it and like see this amazing glacier, animals and the wildlife. And so that's our speciality. And, our partner, which is Zowie, you guys have the know-how to take and gather bookings. You have all the data from those bookings, and then you're going to be able to, and the AI is going to be able to feed that back to me and say, here's where your customers are coming from. Here's what they want. This is what they're willing to pay. And I think that's where we can, both of our companies are going to be able to make some magic. Well,
I agree. I agree. That was beautifully said, actually. I love that. Yeah, I gotta come out there. I gotta come see these for myself. Try out these
absolutely.
these ice glaciers.
Bring
Yeah,
bring your partner, bring your
it's
family. It's
yeah, definitely on the bucket list. I think that's a wonderful place for us to end this. Is there any other parting words? Is there anything else that you'd like people to know before we part here, Corin?
no, I think this has been quite an enjoyable experience. I've never been on a podcast before, so uh, thank you for having me. And I think the message is that we're here. We're the small Canadian company, and we'd love to take people out and experience the wonders of our national parks. So if you're in our area, look us up.
I agree. If you're in the area, look them up, and if you're not in the area, you buy a ticket and you go see it, because it's a once in a lifetime experience that you have to experience. Well, Oren, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time to be with here today with us. And yeah, have a fantastic rest of your day, and talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sam.
Cheers.